Alright, another Sunday night here on the Reviewing Network Live, and that means, of course, it's time to take a look at the weekend box office. The regular feature of our weekly show that's going to be starting in about 2 weeks from now. We are that close to finally getting this going on a weekly level. I'm going to try to get some more videos on this channel. The trailer reviews that you've seen over the last couple of weeks have been just me trying to add some content on here because we have not been getting a whole lot of big new trailers to talk about. Hopefully that's going to change pretty soon, but I think they're holding off on trailers solely because of what's going on with the writers and actors strike, which honestly, there is a little bit more optimism that they're still talking, and they're still going to be talking this week. So, not saying that there's going to be a resolution anytime soon, but the fact that they're still talking, it's a start in the right direction. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the weekend box office, and there are some interesting stories once again to talk about. A movie that had been the #1 film for a number of weeks has finally been taken off its perch by another film, but it leads to some interesting conversations that we can have on the levels here that the box office numbers show. You get what I'm trying to say here. Let's just get right to it. I'm trying to fill some time here, so let's go ahead and just get right into it. We'll start with the #5 movie, which is one of the two big new releases that came out this week, and Universal had a film open here at number 5 last week in this spot. And now they have another film that opened up there. It did a little bit better, but not by that much, especially considering what was at stake with this film. That film is, of course, Strays. Strays is, of course, the R-rated talking dog movie starring Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx, and also featuring Will Forte, Isla Fisher, Randall Park, Rob Riggle. It's directed by the same man that gave us Barbie and Stargo to Vista Del Mar. So, there was a lot of expectations behind this movie, but opening at number 5 at $8.3 million, not a good start for this movie, especially considering, like with The Last Voyage of the Demeter last week, this is yet another Universal film that bombed pretty hard considering its budget at this movie's budget is $46 million, and needless to say, this has not been a good summer for Universal. I mean, everybody talks about how Disney is struggling this summer with their movies, but Disney has at least a couple of hits to their name this summer. The Little Mermaid was a hit, even though it wasn't a big hit worldwide. Elemental was a big hit, despite the fact that it started off really slow, but it slowly but surely went on to become the second highest grossing animated movie of the year worldwide. But Universal, when you look at the summer schedule they had, a lot of big movies did not live up to those high expectations they were hoping for. Like, summer started, of course, with Fast X, and Fast X didn't do well here in America with America audiences. It only brought in about, I'm trying to remember how much it brought in. I think it was around 140. It didn't even crack $150 million, $146 million. The worldwide gross for this is $718.9 million, and according to several outlets, the film would have had to gross $800 to $850 million worldwide in order to turn into a profit. The film barely crawled into the black, but it did make a small profit, but Universal probably was expecting a whole lot more with the Fast and Furious series. But then again, when you spend $300 million on that movie, as the summer has shown us, it's not always going to lead to successful numbers. And then, of course, we have Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, which we've talked about in the past already, of how Universal completely just abandoned the film and didn't even bother to actually try to promote it or anything. The film ended up making $42 million worldwide, becoming the lowest grossing DreamWorks film in history. Like, you want to know how bad it is? It did less money than Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas. And Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas was a big flop, but it still made more money than Ruby Gillman did. Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas, when it's all said and done, ended up only making about $80 million. This thing made $42 million, which, like I said before, they need to fire that marketing department that put the campaign together for this, because they tried their best to, bury this movie, and I don't know why they did it, because I saw the movie when it came out on digital a couple of weeks after it came out. It really wasn't a bad movie. It's actually a really good film, and you have Universal just abandoning it like it was nothing. Like if you weren't gonna put your effort to put the money into this, then why did you even bother putting it out to begin with? Like, what was the point of even putting it out there? It doesn't make any sense at all. Of course, we talked about The Last Voyage of the Demeter not doing so well, which I'll get into that in just a little bit, because I did see the movie this week. And now you have Strays, and their only biggest success this summer has been Oppenheimer. Universal should be grateful that Christopher Nolan decided to take this away from Warner Brothers and bring it to Universal, because Oppenheimer has been their biggest success story this summer, and it's going to hit $900 million worldwide when it's all said and done, and we'll get to what it made this weekend. But Strays, I kind of figured this was going to happen, because the trailers for this movie did not do a good job of selling the film. On top of that, the movie itself it didn't look like a film that deserved to be seen on a big screen. I'm starting to realize now, like, you could tell when a movie is clearly made for the big screen and when something is clearly made for a smaller platform, like a streaming platform. Like, this is something that should have been streamed on Peacock, honestly. This does not seem like a film that needed to be seen on a big screen. Like, Last Voyage of the Demeter at least looks like it's supposed to be on a big screen. Strays does not. There are scenes in this movie where you could tell the background is just clearly not there, and it just seems like it's plastered onto there like a cheap streaming movie. Like, and not to say that all streaming movies are like this. A lot of streaming movies that we've gotten over the last couple of years have actually been pretty good. I mean, one of the best movies of the year this year is a streaming movie, and that's Tetris, the Apple TV one with Taron Egerton, and that was a great movie. But this just doesn't look like something that deserved to be seen on a big screen. They tried to use the same marketing campaign too of Good Boys, where they have the dog with the R rating in his mouth, just like how Good Boys had the same thing with the R rating on there and the 3 kids there. But the difference is Good Boys is actually a funny movie, and Strays, from what I've seen and from what I've heard from people, this is possibly a contender for one of the year's worst movies. And I'm probably gonna go see it at some point to see if it actually does warrant that. I'm hoping it doesn't, but honestly, the trailer for this did not sell me whatsoever. There was nothing about this trailer or these characters that were likable or gave me hope that this could actually be something good. But I've absolutely heard nobody say any good things about this movie too, so that's also kind of making me worried about seeing this film. But I will go see it at some point. But regardless, this is not a good start for this movie. This is not the start that you want to have for your big summer tentpole R-rated movie, R-rated comedy. And there's been this debate about the actor strike and the writer strike playing a part into why the film didn't do so well. Keep in mind, this film was supposed to originally come out on June 9th, before the actors went on strike. Even then, I don't think this movie still would have done well, even if you put it in that spot there. There's just so much about this trailer that just does not work. And just the humor doesn't work, these characters don't work. I don't think this movie really could have done well, even if you put it out before the actor strike. I feel like this movie was a loser right from the get-go. And it's a shame, because like I said, this director did Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, which was a fantastic film that came out a couple of years ago. And it's Phil Lord and Chris Miller. You're supposed to trust these guys. These are the guys that had their names behind Cocaine Bear. They gave us 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie. And this is their first real dud that I've seen from them with their name attached to it. And you expect so much more from it, but it just doesn't fly. It just doesn't work as well as it should. I really doubt this is going to make any money back going forward. I don't think the word of mouth is not strong on this. This thing's probably going to be dead on arrival. And probably like with Ruby Gilman, I'll probably have to wait and see this when it comes out on streaming in a couple of weeks, because I really don't see this movie sticking around for too much longer, especially with the stuff that's coming up in the weeks to come. So, yeah, Strays did not do so well. Let's go ahead and move on to the number 4 movie, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which is still hanging in there. It's still doing pretty well. It dropped down a spot from last week at number 4. Its gross now is at, the total gross for this weekend, $8.4 million, dropping 45%. It's up to $88.1 million. After 3 weeks, it's already surpassed its $70 to $80 million budget that it had. It's going to hit $100 million pretty soon. It's a hit for Paramount. Even though there's been people that are saying that the movie, because of the strike, these movies are losing $15 million more than what they could have gotten. But keep in mind, I don't think you really needed the actors to sell Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You just needed to. I think you could have just sold it with the animation and the fact that Ninja Turtles has a loyal fan base to it. Even the newcomers could come into this and find something to really appreciate about it. And like the fact that it's already made back its budget with 3 weeks in. I don't think this movie's going away anytime soon. There's no real family film competition coming up. until the end of September with the Paw Patrol movie. And even then, even if it's gone by this point, it's going to make its money back. It's made its money back already, and then some. They've already started development on a sequel and a TV series that's going to be on Paramount Plus. So I really don't think there's no reason to believe that this series isn't going to continue with another film. Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies of the year. It's a great film. In fact, three of the top 4 movies are my favorite films of the year. Case in point, our next movie, the number 2 film, the aforementioned Oppenheimer. As I mentioned, Oppenheimer has been the one saving grace for Universal this summer. This is a film that has continued to play well, $10.6 million this weekend. It's now up to $285.2 million after 5 weeks here. Worldwide, $717 million worldwide, and like I said, it's projected to end at $900 million, which will more than make up for most of Universal's misfires this summer, and rightfully so, because it's a great film. It's Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. We've gone into this on a number of many levels, and I don't think we really need to delve more into this one here. Let's get to the most interesting thing that happened this weekend: the demise of the number 1 movie for the last 4 weeks. I say demise, but this movie is nowhere near anywhere close to a demise. Finally dropping out of the number 1 spot after 4 weeks, that is Barbie. Barbie, of course, surpassed The Dark Knight as Warner Brothers' highest-grossing movie of all time. $21.5 million this weekend at number 2, which is still reasonably great numbers for this. A 36% drop-off from last week. $567.3 million here in America alone after 5 weeks. $1.3 billion worldwide. It's mere days away from surpassing the Super Mario Brothers movie as the highest-grossing film of the year. I think Super Mario Brothers is at $574 right now, so it's about $7 million away, which by the end of next weekend, it's going to hit that mark, if not in the middle of this week. So don't be surprised if that happens here. But yeah, the interesting thing about this, $21.5 million after 5 weeks. This thing has not dropped down to under $20 million yet. That could change next weekend with Gran Turismo coming out, and other things coming out as well. But regardless of how you look at this, who would have guessed that this movie really would have been the phenomenon that it is right now? And it's still going. Like, it's still going to make money. It's going to make over $600 million. And probably end up around $650 million domestically when it's all said and done. And again, rightfully so. It's one of the best movies of the year. It's a great fun movie. It's a universally appealing movie. Not just the girls, not just the boys, but everybody can really find a lot to admire about this movie. And it's going to be very interesting. And we don't even know if this is the last time it will be the number 1 movie. You never know what will happen with the number 1 film this weekend, next weekend, or Gran Turismo. Will people really want to go see Gran Turismo again? Or can Barbie find its way back up there next weekend? We'll have to wait and see on that. But let's get to the number 1 movie this week. And the number 1 movie this week, kind of falling right where everyone kind of expected, on the low end of expectations, and that is DC's Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle opened up to $25.4 million, which, it's not a bad opening. It opened on the low end of expectations. And I also say this because, and this is going to be an interesting thing to talk about here, because the budget on this movie is $104 million. Now, that seems like a lot of money. It does seem like a lot of money, but hear me out. Here's why I don't think this is as bad as something like The Flash or Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Because when you add in worldwide grosses, the film has already made $43.4 million. So it's about halfway there to getting back its budget. So I think it will end up making its budget back when it's all said and done. Plus, you got to remember, this was a film that was originally intended for HBO Max. This was supposed to be a film that was specifically made for streaming. And then when David Zaslav made the decision to change it to a theatrical release and started putting more money into it, it became a bigger project, and it didn't really surprise me that the budget grew up a little bit. But $104 million, it's not that it can make it back. It just won't have to rely on the domestic grosses to do that. It'll have to depend on the worldwide gross as well. But considering that it's almost halfway there already, I think it has a good chance to actually do that. And I think that there is a lot in this movie, from what I've been hearing. Because like I said in my talking about the movies review, I didn't see this movie yet. I'm gonna go check it out next weekend, but I wanted to check out Last Voyage of the Demeter first because I felt like that movie's going to be gone from theaters probably next week, guaranteed. And even if it isn't, it'll probably be a late night screening because you know how the movie theaters will do that sometimes, depending on what the rating of the movie is. Like an R-rated movie, they'll do like a late showing, like at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, something around there. So I'm glad I got to see it this weekend because I'll talk more about that in a second. But I am going to check out Blue Beetle this weekend. But I think that there is a lot to admire about this movie from the stuff I've been hearing about it. It's got a lot of good reviews for it going on right now, which is something that The Flash didn't do. The word of mouth on it is pretty solid, even though it has a B+ rating on CinemaScore right now. Most people recommended the film. 82% on PostTrack said gave it a positive score. 65% said they were definitely recommended, and the Rotten Tomatoes reviews are at 76%, which is pretty solid for this film. And I think from what I've seen from the positive word of mouth, it's not supposed to be a groundbreaking new film. It's not supposed to be a film that's supposed to be part of a major storyline in the DCEU. It feels like a film that's a standalone film. You can tell they're taking a lot of elements from other movies of this type. Like, I see a lot of Iron Man being taken from this. And a little bit of Shazam, too, with the family aspect, too, as well. And it just looks like it could be a ton of fun. And all the people that I've talked to, I've seen on social media talking about it, they have said that it is a fun movie. It's not a movie that's going to be a groundbreaking masterpiece or something like The Flash, which is supposed to be like this game changer. But the word of mouth on it is good, and they seem to like this character and this performer, Jolo Mariduena. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, as Jamie Reyes. And even James Gunn has said that he is part of the new DC plan, so I'm glad to see that he's going to be part of this new plan going forward. And it sounds like he's a character that could be very interesting to have in the new in this new DC universe that they're setting up here. So I'm definitely very curious to see how that pans out. I think this movie will do fine. I don't think it's going to make its budget back here in the States, but thanks to worldwide grosses, I think it's going to help that. I think it's eventually going to make that money back. And I think it is going to prove to be more successful than Shazam and The Flash were easily. And I'm definitely looking forward to checking out. Like I said, I'm going to check it out next week. I'll have a review for it on the other channel, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And I'm really excited to check it out. I'm really curious to see how this film's going to pan out. So, Blue Beetle, the #1 movie this weekend. Considering what's going to be coming up next weekend, which is going to be Gran Turismo. Of course, they were supposed to come out last weekend, but then it didn't. And they've been trying to get the word of mouth built by having sneak previews on Friday, on this past Friday and the Friday before that, because of their strategy of, well, the stars can't sell the movie, but the audiences can. And if you've seen these trailers on TV with people, the real-time, in quotation marks, theater reactions, there is nothing about those reactions that make me want to see this movie. Like, I want to give it the benefit of a doubt, but that whole idea of having the theater-going reactions and knowing that Sony probably paid these people to say these positive things about this movie, it just doesn't feel genuine. Like, I've talked to people who have seen the film already. I believe them more than I do these people that are being seen on national television, and most of the word of mouth I've heard is good on the film from those people. In terms of the reviews themselves, though, it seems like it's a mixed bag. I think the overall his reaction to the film has been like, it's a film that has a lot of brisk action, some good underdog drama, but it's undermined by the loose telling of the fact-based story, and it's a solid race movie. That's the consensus that's on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and at least it sounds like it's getting better reviews than something like Uncharted did, which Uncharted was not a good movie, and it's a movie that I had high expectations for, considering the cast and the director they had, and it just didn't work overall. And this film, I don't know if the word of mouth is going to be strong enough for this. That's why I say that there's a good chance that Barbie might be the #1 movie next weekend if this movie doesn't pan out and if people don't come back to Blue Beetle as much as they should. But we'll wait to see what happens. We'll find out by this time next week. But so that's going to be the big new release for next week. And I don't think there's anything else that's coming out next week as far as I'm aware of. I mean, the only other thing I see is the Jurassic Park re-release, which I saw the poster for that yesterday when I went to go see Last Voyage of the Demeter. I don't know if that's going to have any traction, honestly, but I mean, I've been debating whether or not if I want to go see it again, Yeah, but I've already seen it in theaters one time when they did the 20th anniversary 3D release 10 years ago. So I might go see it, I might not. I haven't decided on that front yet. But my main priority right now is Blue Beetle. So that was my plan for next week, in terms of of a movie to see next week. Now, as far as the rest of the top 10 goes, some interesting stuff here. Meg 2 is still holding on in there with $6.7 million. $67.5 million domestically. The worldwide gross over $316 million. Talk to Me is still hanging in there. A24 horror movie. Horror movies do not usually hold up as well as this movie does, but this thing's been holding up pretty well. $37.4 million. The worldwide gross is $46.1 million. We already know there's a sequel coming. Not much more to delve into that. Haunted Mansion. This week it actually surpassed the original Haunted Mansion's gross by about $30,000. $3 million this weekend. $58.8 million. $53.832155. $58.8 million this weekend after 4 weeks. The original Haunted Mansion's $58,802,462. So $30,000 difference. But the big thing is that the week after this, in 2003, it came out it was Christmas week, and it held the Eddie Murphy film held a 27% drop off with a $2.8 million gross and $64.7 million. So I don't think this movie is gonna be above the original Haunted Mansion for too much longer. So that front there. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, $2.7 million, $164.6 million. And then The Last Voyage of the Demeter, not surprisingly, dropped off 61% to $2.5 million. $11.4 million. I saw the movie. I like the film a lot. You can check out my full review over on the other channel. I'll put a link to it in the corner. Sound of Freedom finally dropped out of the top 10 this week. And Old Boy came out in theaters this weekend again. They did a re-release for that film. Didn't do too bad. Almost $500,000 for a re-release that nobody really knew about until this week. Most majority of people didn't know about, including myself. I mean, that's not bad. That's not a bad gross for that weekend. And with that said, that's the box office for this weekend. So like I said, this will be a regular feature on the Reviewing Network Live when we start the show up 2 weeks from tonight. So get ready for that. Subscribe to this video if you want to see more videos like this. Hit the like button. And check out the main channel as well. I will see you guys next time for the next video. So until then, take care.